Okie dokie.
Hey, how you doing? On our play for this week. Wait, scrolling up, gotta love it. God of War Debs making its first new IP in over 20 years. Crazy. Xbox delays avowed so you can play games that aren't avowed. Okay. Are you ready for a Like a Dragon Total War? RGG hopes so. After laying off 220 employees, what is next for Bungie? All this and more on Season 8, Episode 32 of Press X to Start Gamers Digest. Whoa. What's up, everyone? I'm your host, DJ, a.k.a. That was a little loud. A.k.a. Sexy Bad Choices. A.k.a. I went bang, bang, and shoot on my PC, and it did not go great. I am joined by...
Sean M.F. Ross.
What does the M&F stand for?
That was a little low.
Oh. Now you know who we are. Press X Start Gamers Digest is a video podcast that condensed the most important gaming news from this past week into an hour-long meal just for you. We are live on YouTube every Sunday when we can make it, because of course, life is hard.
But listening to us is easy.
Yes, it is. Don't forget, you can support us by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the notification bell. If you are listening, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, or the podcast service you are currently tuned in on. If you want, you can join our conversation by joining our Discord at pressx2start.com/Discord. Hey there. How you doing? You good? Do us a solid. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. If you are listening and you're not seeing me look at you, look at me, look at you, then leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, whatever podcast service you're currently tuned in on. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's jump back in. Number 5, the new path for Bungie. Oh boy. So Bungie, if you don't know Bungie, they made Halo. Before Halo, they actually made Marathon. They made Destiny, and yeah, that's the Bungie that we're talking about right now. So they released a blog post on their website, penned by Pete Parsons, who is the CEO of Bungie, and the title is "The New Path Forward." I'm not going to read this giant long thing because everyone knows what's going on already. So essentially, Bungie is changing course in pretty much every way imaginable. They laid off 220 employees. That's about 17% of their studio.
Damn.
Then they split off about 155 employees to form a new studio under Sony Interactive Entertainment, and they're going to be working on another project. But essentially, the Bungie that we all knew is morphing, and it is going to be essentially taken over by Hermen Hulst. Is it his last name Hulst?
Yeah.
Okay. The new part or joint CEO of PlayStation. And the reason why that's happening is because when PlayStation bought Bungie, the deal was that they had to hit these deadlines, they had to hit these milestones to sell X number or to make X number of money from Destiny to keep their independence. And if they don't do that, then they will be brought under the wing of PlayStation. And here we are, because even though the final shape did spectacularly well, it's sitting at like a 91 on OpenCritic, I think an 89 on Metacritic. It is pretty much beloved by a lot of people. A lot of people say Destiny or Bungie managed to land the plane. All that was still not enough to avoid these layoffs, to avoid essentially Bungie just imploding. None of this was avoidable, essentially because that same CEO, Pete Parsons, fixed the books to to inflate the profitability of Bungie and put himself in just such a bad position where they just couldn't. There's no way they could have achieved the success that Sony asked them to achieve based off of the stuff that they showed uh Sony. So yeah, it's just literally the worst possible thing that could happen in one of these like partnership situations where even when Sony bought Bungie, it was always a weird thing. Like, okay, like they're not under PlayStation, they're like
Yeah,
partnered with
side by side.
PlayStation. Yeah. And they're supposed to help guide these live service games because Bungie is the quote unquote king of live service because they have Destiny and it's managed to stay afloat all these 10 years. I say stay afloat because it has not always been successful. I am a
Yeah.
scorned Destiny 1 and 2 fan, and there was definitely dark days where I was just like, screw this game. There's nothing to do here because their content cycle is horrible. But I still played it because I was just stuck in a bad relationship with Destiny. Anyways, um, yeah, so I just said a lot of words. I don't even know where to jump from. Uh, so yeah, so Herman Hulst will take over
Control a
Bungie. That's
bunch.
pretty much
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much gonna happen. Now, there's a bunch of articles that I'm just kind of picking from because a lot of it there's a lot of bleed over.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like what's your thoughts on this while I figure myself out?
Herman Holst specifically.
I know, I mean, just
Um.
just this whole thing, just this whole mess of a situation.
So hopefully he can turn it around without having to, just throw in the towel, shut him down.
Hmm.
Hopefully he doesn't have to go that route.
Yeah.
Um. I was never a fan of, uh, shit. I was about to call it Halo. Um. Destiny.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I never liked Destiny. I never liked Halo. Regardless. I mean,
Okay.
we'll see where they go from here. But it just sucks that Pete Parsons was a asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple things with specifically dealing with Mr. Pete himself. Um so this so yeah, just to go back to what you were saying, um it's one of those things where like yeah, if you don't like Halo, all their games are just built off of the backbone of that game. So, it's hard to get adjusted to it and like jump back and forth between that and like a Call of Duty. So I
Yeah.
totally get that. Um in terms of Pete Parsons,
Asshole.
Sony n- Sony needs to fire him from Bungie. And it's one of those things
Is
where
he
it's
not
like,
gone already? I think he's already out.
is he? I don't know if he's out or not. I don't think I saw anything about him actually being gone. If he's gone, great move by Sony. Like that's a first step to fixing Bungie. My personal opinion is I am it sucks that Bungie has lost all these like amazing people, but I am also super happy that it is that Bungie is going to be under the control of Hermen Hulst because if you don't know who he is, he came from Gorilla and he literally turned Gorilla from the Killzone studio, which was a pretty good studio, pretty like, strong studio to the like Horizon Forbidden West studio, which you may not like Aloy, but like that is a phenomenal studio and they produce like I will still say to this day, uh, Horizon Forbidden West is probably still like one of the best looking games of current generation.
Yeah, Pete Parsons is still there.
Ah, jeez, that's unfortunate. Well, yeah. So this article comes from VG 24/7. Bungie CEO Pete Parsons has seemingly spent over $2 million on classic cars and motorbikes since Sony bought the studio back in 2022.
Good God.
So yes, that's what he's been doing with the money he got from Sony after cooking the books.
Hmm.
Good old cars. Um, this article is by Mark Warren. That's pretty much it. Another employee pretty much called Pete out on this. Like in an irate manner. I don't remember where that article was, but like if you catch it, read it. It's pretty hilarious. But like the person is really peed off because it's very much so like the dude. I don't know if it's a lady or a guy or they or whatever. But the person was like, you called me out to see your cars the day before you fired us. Like ridiculous. Like just crazy. Um. So yeah, that's him and his fuckery. There's another article from The Verge. So Microsoft considered acquiring Bungie and Sega to bolster Xbox Game Studios, and internal email shows. Um, so the important part about that is that it's from Tom Warren. The important part about this is that Microsoft saw or they rated Bungie as high as having a high burn rate risk. So essentially, they're burning a lot of money, and it's a risk to buy that studio.
Yeah.
But then PlayStation turns around and buy that studio. So the issue is like, okay, well, did Sega not do their due diligence? Like, sorry, not
I
Sega.
mean,
Did
Sony,
Sony
yeah.
not do their did Sony not do their due diligence? Like, what? Why did Sony buy Bungie when the evidence was clear that this was a big risk? I
It is
Go
quite
ahead.
possible that they do their due diligence, but the
Yeah.
books are cooked.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's the thing too. Like it's a thing. I have two reasons. Like that one, I think is a very probably obvious answer in that like Pete Parsons was just like, all right, well, we need to get bought
Mhm.
because we are burning a lot of money and we need a bigger power to help us get through this. And he just kind of tweaked things to make them look a lot better than where they were. I think the other thing is that in this time period when this was happening, Microsoft just acquired Bethesda. No, I think they had Bethesda for like a year. I think this was in 2021.
Yeah.
So at this point, and I even think at that point there was rumors that Microsoft was looking to purchase other publishers. So I think in the Sony camp they were like, okay, well, if they're starting this bidding war, we're going to have to do our best to get as high of a studio as we can
They
with
didn't
as
want to get
much
left
money that
behind
we have.
because it looks like they're on a acquisition spree. So I mean, it's understandable.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think that's what pretty much got Sony into this whole partnership that is putting them in this situation right now.
Yeah.
Um so Jason Schreier from Bloomberg had this giant report of like the full story about how Bungie got into this mess, like how they are where they are right now. And it's super long, but it's like really informative. There's a couple of uh, little informational pieces that came from it. So this is one of them. And this comes from Insider Gamer, who pulled it from there. Bungie will no longer release paid expansions for Destiny 2. So, and this comes to us from Mike Straw.
Mm.
So, in the news report or in the new report from Jason Schreier, Bungie is no longer planning to release regular pay expansions for the game. Sales of each expansion have continued to fall year over year, leading to a change in approach. Instead of the large expansions, Bungie will do more small scale updates. These updates, Schreier said, will be released for free and coming with overhauls to activities that it hopes will appeal to hardcore players. So, as a previous hardcore player, I look at this and I think that's a
Oh,
fantastic thing to hear.
that's what you think you were?
At the time, yes, because I spent too many hours running the same dang strikes and stuff just to level up a character that I ultimately didn't even bother playing with.
Mm.
But yeah. So yeah, like having these smaller scale updates and making it free, I think is a better approach than how they, especially in this current era of like shooters. Like that's kind
Yeah.
of what you do. Um, so just reading on the article, other vague plans for the future includes a storyline that will feature characters and worlds that Destiny has not yet explored. the report adds. Um, so okay, actually, let's continue reading. As far as another Destiny game, namely Destiny 3, that's still not in the works, which I thought was interesting because at this point, I think we are at the 10-year mark for Destiny 2, and that was kind of, the overall plan. This is going to be a 10-year story for Destiny or whatever. So it's like, okay, what did they do next? You would think it'd be Destiny 3 where they like reboot everything, but that wasn't really the plan. Um, the game is not, nor has it ever been in development. They're talking about Destiny 3.
Yeah.
Instead of a new Destiny, Bungie wants to make Destiny 2 a more attractive game for players. So they are essentially stopping. They, I guess, wanted to stop at Destiny 2
Mm-hmm.
and just make that just be the game that lives on. Um, the quote next, Bungie is instead looking to create a smoother onboarding process for Destiny 2, such as a rebranding to attract new players who might be turned off by a game that can now feel impenetrable to those unfamiliar with its
Edge. Word
ample
up.
proper nouns. Yes.
It doesn't
That
feel
is
accessible as like Fortnite,
not at all. Not at all. As I'll tell you, it's even worse if you do have experience with that game. You jump back in because there's a level of confidence that you
Right.
have that's
What the
just
hell is
like,
all this?
yeah, and it's just like it gets annoying because it's just like, all right, I know where this stuff was like 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know where anything is. Like I feel like an old man. I hate this. But
That's the
yeah.
secret.
So
You are an old
so
man.
what? Oh. So yeah, so that's where Destiny 2 is right now. Um, and then along with all this, we got even more bad news where
Mm.
Bungie layoffs include senior execs like Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy. So Luke Smith has been the face of Destiny for a very long time. Like, yeah, so that just sucks. There so the wording behind layoffs, we don't exactly know how they were let go. It could have been like there was a deal
Yeah.
that was made to them and they took the deal and that deal involved them leaving the company. So that's not really them being laid off. Like they could have left the company, but they're no longer working at Bungie, essentially. Um the so okay, so let me just read this article. So this comes to us from a GameSpot by way of Timur Hussein. Shout out to Timur. Um So yeah, Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy, two senior executives at Bungie, were both part of the recent rounds of layoffs, according to a new report. Oh, so maybe they were laid off. Speaking on, oh, okay, this is from Jeff Grubb. Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking on his Game Master Size podcast, Jeff Grubb confirms that the duo were working on Payback, a new game set in Destiny universe, let but were let go as part of a sweeping job losses at the now PlayStation owned studio. So yeah, okay. So really and truly, the most important part about this is the whole payback thing. Like, what was payback? We know from the previous article that payback was not Destiny 3. Payback was actually a different Bungie Destiny property.
Yeah.
So payback was supposed to be a third person gotcha style game like Genshin Impact or like
Okay.
Warframe, where you are in this open world, you are working or you're playing with like, it's co-op, so you're playing with other people, but you're
Mm-hmm.
fighting monsters and stuff. Very much like a Genshin Impact with, of course, a gotcha system. And you have, you roll for characters and like, oh, you get soldier. I forget the name of the soldier from fucking Destiny. Anyways, like it that piece of information
Mm-hmm.
was so like what? Like I read it a couple times because I just couldn't comprehend it. So it was very much so like, what is going on with this? But yeah, that's what Luke Smith was working on, but I guess that's going to be shelved because it's no longer a thing that's happening because he's no longer at the studio. All right. So lastly about all of this, Bungie reportedly. Oh no, that's actually the same thing. So actually, we can just get rid of this because I just talked about that. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. So yeah. So essentially, where we are now is we're at a much smaller Bungie. There is a second studio that will be working on some unknown project that are all at this point ex Bungie people.
Yeah.
Uh, Bungie is now going to be ran as a PlayStation studio, so it's going to be under the wing of Hermen Hulst, and essentially they're going to be just focusing on Marathon, which is coming out next year, and Destiny 2,
Hopefully that don't
with
turn out like Concord.
Concord. Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping that with it, these words are now hollow now because it's like, what is? Oh, I know. Destiny's still a good shooter. Destiny's still a good shooter. I'm hoping that Marathon plays as well as Destiny does,
Yeah.
and it's just a fun experience. But we'll see. Okay, and that is it for this podcast. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Press X Start Gamer Digest. If you want, you can leave us a review on Apple Spotify, on Apple
Yes.
Podcasts.
That.
Yeah, right. Apple, is it Apple Music? Whatever podcast service you're currently tuned in on, leave us a review there. It is getting late. I haven't really played my games yet. I'm in the state, guys. You know what I mean? I haven't eaten dinner yet, man. I'm doing the best I can. All right, doing the best I can.
Mm.
If you're watching this on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and also let us know what games you're playing. Are you playing? Thank goodness you're here, because thank goodness you're here. See what I did there? See what I did
Yeah.
there? I should have did that a lot earlier. This is the ending, and no one watches the end of anything. So yeah, you be safe. You keep playing the video games, and tell us. Tell no, don't tell us. Tell your friends about us because we want them to know about us so we can know about. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyways, see you later, guys.
Bye.